All right, all right. It looks like we are live on the series of tubes again. Welcome to In Your Element with Artis and Eric. My name is Eric Stoller, VP of Product Strategy for Element 451. As always, I am joined by Element 451 CEO and founder, Artis Kadu. And Artis, how's your day going? How's your morning?
Love it. I love Monday mornings because there's just so much energy, and we have our strategy calls, or actually our weekly calls, leadership calls this morning, and there's just a lot of activity happening on the Element side, and there's a lot of activity happening on for a lot of enrollment managers and colleges and universities. So really excited.
Absolutely. Well, and it seems like, I've got more tabs open on my browser already than I should have for a Monday morning, but maybe that's just a carryover from last week. So this week's episode, we're gonna change it up a little bit because we're thinking about ways in which we give back to the community at large in higher education, specifically for folks who work in admissions and enrollment. And we do a lot of blog posts out there. We have a lot of sort of thought leadership via podcasts that we participate in. I know, Artis, you just did a webinar with NAGAP,
Yep.
and we've been doing a lot of different events and shows already this year. And so one other thing that we want to offer to the community, and I'm going to botch this because it's a long sort of list of words, and it's, like I said, it's Monday, but it's an Enrollment Analytics Certificate Program. And we've got, kind of one of the leading experts really in this space who's worked with Element 451 for a long time. He's our Chief Analytics Officer. His name is JC Bonilla. JC, just for a little bit more context for folks, he was responsible for one of the early days enrollment analytics courses for NAGAP. Because obviously he was a major figure in terms of the work that he did with NYU and graduate admissions. And Artis, you have anything to say about the course before we sort of intro it a little bit? We've got a highlight reel we want to share with folks.
Yeah, no. So this is it's a great opportunity. We've been meaning to do this for a while, and it's one of those things where we can talk individually to individual schools and kind of share our knowledge and share our practices, best practices. But it becomes a lot, it becomes prohibitive sometimes, and having the individual on the other side understand some of the techniques and processes that we follow, and kind of taking that learning and bringing it to their own institutions. It's how you kind of amplify our message, and kind of how you amplify that knowledge. And as more and more decisions are being data driven, especially in enrollment, and especially student success and student engagement as well, and there's a lot of data out there, we need to have really good mastery of a lot of those techniques and a lot of the knowledge of those components. So being able to share this course, which we've, it's kind of a long time coming now. It's really excited about it, really proud of some of the work that we've been doing and taking that practice and now put it into a course that can be available to everybody. It's unique. So rather than me describing it or what it is, we put together a little bit of a highlight reel. The person, JC himself, we put together a video describing what the structure of the course is and kind of the different things that you're going to be taking out of it. So Eric, do you have that ready?
I do, yeah. So Victoria, our amazing producer, is going to hide us temporarily, and I'm going to cue up the video here.
Hi everyone, I'm JC Bonilla, Chief Analytics Officer at Element 451. I am also a faculty member in Business Analytics at New York University. Because of that, I have something really exciting that I want to tell you. We are putting together the first enrollment analytics course in the country. That means that in 8 weeks, you'll have the opportunity to come and build 4 projects that would teach you the mechanics of analytics: descriptive, summary, and predictive. That means that in 8 weeks, you'll build a project that will teach you how to use historical data to generate a quantitative persona. That means that in 8 weeks, you have the opportunity to use third-party data and enrich your own history with IPEDS and the National Clearinghouse information. That also means that in 8 weeks, you have the opportunity to build your own predictive modeling. And more importantly, in my opinion, you have the opportunity to put it all together with a fourth project in building your own dashboard in which your analytics narrative is contextual to you, how you recruit your students, and more importantly, how do you support the transition from intuition-driven management to data-driven management in admissions. So come join us as we shape enrollment analytics at Element 451.
Amazing. I mean, honestly, that's the best commercial I think I've ever seen. Well, I should say this too. You know, the enrollment analytics website, you can easily get to it too in terms of signing up. And I'll show the site here in just a second in terms of the visual. But it's just element451.com /analytics. Here, let me share my screen, and I'll get us into that. Just want to share the course site here. We are taking applications now, and hopefully that will share here in just a second. Thank you so much, Victoria. Appreciate it. But it's 8 weeks, and it's online. It's a combination of, I believe, asynchronous and synchronous learning, which is kind of, as everyone knows, a very proven way of participating, learning, synthesizing, and coming away with some real tangible learnings on the topic here. Let me just yeah, there we go.
One thing to mention, Eric, is that the space is limited, and what we're trying to do here is have a cohort about 20 initial cohort of 20 people, because of the synchronous component and the project-based components. We're trying to get as much hands-on with and FaceTime with JC running this initial cohort. So if you're thinking about it, please apply as we kind of start filling in those spots in the class as well. And again, you know, there are certain scholarships that we're providing to certain organizations and memberships. However, we feel like the entry level for this, the entry cost for this course in terms of the value is tremendous here. Rather than, Eric, you going through that website, can you just go to the top? And I'd like to touch base on just a couple of the projects that you're going to be covering. So JC mentioned them very briefly, and there's going to be 4 different projects. So when you walk out of the course, the way that we're structuring and that JC is structuring this is that this is a hands-on course. So you're going to be learning the techniques and the why and the how, and you're actually going to be given data points, and you will be given data sets, and you're going to be working with this data. So it's a hands-on course. You're not going to come here and learn the theory and kind of walk out of here and saying, well, how do I actually get to do it? You can bring in your own data sets, or we'll be providing sample data sets as well. And Eric, as we scroll down to the course, to the different projects, let's take a look at the first project. So scroll down a little bit more. There we go. So the persona modeling. A lot of schools have been moving towards a recruiting model where you're trying to find what is the best student that fits your institution, and how do you target that student in a personalized way. And the best way to do that is you build personas, and this idea of building personas is something that a lot of digital agencies are providing as services. And the personas can be built with a number of different data points. Those data points can come from your list purchases. However, the best way to do it is looking at your own data and looking at the history of your data, and then figuring out what are those attributes that fit best, and how do you group those together in order to build a persona. Does that mean that you're having attributes, like you're building a persona? Think about personas as local degree completion, let's say cohort, or athletic students who who are out of state. So those are the kind of personas that you can start building. And of course, I'm butchering this right now because there's going to be a lot more for your institution. It would be interesting. So persona modeling is understanding it and actually being able to build it are very, very key to how your enrollment process and how you think about enrollment going forward. And any vendor that you're going to interact with or you're going to work with from a marketing perspective is going to implement something very similar to persona modeling. It is a technique that's being adopted very widely in marketing right now, and it's in your student search and in your student marketing and your enrollment marketing. So understanding it and actually being able to do it and kind of contribute to it is kind of key. So the second project, Eric, you're muted.
Yep. Sorry about that, Artis. I just wanted to say, first of all, you didn't butcher anything. The second of all, I think that, this is about amplification and scale, correct? When you talk about persona modeling, it's about the fact that, you need to have sort of buckets around where your communication can kind of sort of grow and evolve from. And again, the scaling aspect of it is. So yeah, the second one here is the purchase and likeliness to apply model.
Yeah. So think about you're doing certain list purchases or you're acquiring names from different places, and you need to be able to give them certain filters in order to get back those students. So you're saying, okay, I want students with this academic qualification. I want them to be in a specific geolocation. I want them to come from this schools. So whatever filters are available on the list purchasing side, and as we know, those are getting a little bit smaller now with the test optional and the access, but having a really good understanding of who you're trying to reach and kind of what's available, and then bringing that data back is going to be key to then saying, okay, you don't have a unlimited resource. If you had an unlimited resource, you'd go out there and kind of contract with all of the different vendors and say, okay, I want all of the available students that I can get right now. And you can get, $1 million, $1.5 million every year of potentially, if you're undergraduate and graduate, you have to purchase a lot more than that. GRE, GMAT, all of those test scores. However, you only have a certain amount of money that you can work with, and you want to use that the most effectively as possible. So purchase modeling is the idea that you can fine-tune the parameters for those lists that you need to get informed by the history and the work that you did in persona modeling to figure out what are the best students that fit your institution historically, and then now being able to go out and say, okay, this is the types of students that I want, and this is the filters, and these are the parameters that I want. Now, even after that, bringing those students back into the system, it's still, those are suspects, what we call suspects, or students that have not raised their hand yet. You're just narrowing down that field. And what happens after that is that you need to start communicating to them and informing them of information about your school. So that's where the likeliness to apply model becomes even more interesting, because now you can give all of those students that you purchased a score and predictive model score with a likeness to apply based on your historical data as well. Now in here, depending on what system you're using, you might have access to behavioral information as well. And that becomes really important as you work with it. In Element, we have this idea of engagement score plus a few more other traits that are around behavior that make the likeliness a lot more accurate. However, if you don't have it, that's still okay, because you can use all those different variables. And you're actually going to build a predictive model, an actual machine learning predictive model that you can kind of load up and you can score those students. So you don't have to send it out to your external vendor and then get back a result that might be out of date. So you can do this every day. You can do it however often you need to. So that's the second project. And then going on from there, it's this idea of how do you, how do you bucket and how do you identify kind of this students that are coming in how do you recognize trends in those students? By loading in external data that's coming from different sources as well. So think about, some of the data that's coming in from iPads or Clearinghouse and so on and so forth. So how do you then pen that data to these students that are coming in, or to your data sets, and figuring out cohorts of those students? How do you find patterns in there? And then the last but not least, it's this idea of, well, if you're most of the time you're going to put this really nice reports. Well, I won't say nice, but you're going to put this numerical reports together, predicting, okay, I'm going to have this many students in this class for this segment or for this persona. But a lot of those are very manual reports, and they don't look. You have to look at the numbers specifically and see and know exactly what you're looking for. So building executive reports that tell a story, it's an art in its own, right? So how do you visualize the data that you're getting to communicate certain piece of information to your executive team, to your VP, to your president, to your cabinet, so on and so forth? And how do you put these dashboards together that tell a story? And that's the last part of it. So you have 4 different projects. Each one of those projects kind of builds up on top of each other, with the idea that you're not able to articulate, the process and the decision making around, who to communicate to, what students to engage, how they're affecting your funnel and how they're affecting your tactics, and then keeping an eye on it and getting insights from those tactics in real time through dashboarding and through data. Now, of course, some of these are very easily done in some tools, and like Element, for example. But the idea here is not tool specific. This is learning the techniques, and you're not going to be using a CRM in this case. You're going to be using tools that are readily available. Think about Google Sheets, or think about some of the readily available products out there for predictive analytics and so on and so forth. So we're going to be expanding the material a little bit more as on those tools, but you don't need to have any system in place in order to take this course. The idea is that you learn the techniques, you learn the tools, you can build these in 8 weeks, and then take that knowledge and now bring it to the institution and expand. And of course, if you want to automate a lot of these things, then you need to start looking for some of those tools that make it a little bit easier for you. But it's all about understanding and knowing and having speaking the language of enrollment analytics.
One, it's correct me if I'm wrong, but it's also about sort of saying this. It sounds a bit sort of, this is the future, but this is actually the today.
Yeah,
as well. I think that there's, a lot of what you were talking about was really maximizing your budgets, so you can have, immediate impact that's data driven. And, there's nothing different than what this is like to some of the sort of activities around how different companies sell things, right? In terms of how they look at that buyer's journey. And it's very similar to, a prospective student's sort of experience with an institution. And honestly, I think I should just sign up for the course, because I'll serve as sort of a guinea pig number 1 or number 2, what have you, because I think that there's a lot of value there. Because maybe another episode we'll have JC on the show, and he can just kind of riff on everything having to do with what the course is kind of a part 2 about it, I guess, so to speak. But I think at the end of the day, it's about us giving back to the higher ed community, providing a sort of a wealth of knowledge, and saying, the goalpost has moved for what enrollment what it looks like. And so for those institutions that sort of say, if you say, oh, wow, this is something we haven't been doing. And like you said, artists, no one has unlimited budget. They can't just buy a million names or 1.5 million names. That's just going to, cost the institution far too much. So what do you do with that? That data-driven modeling. And I don't think this could be stated enough, right? For those institutions who create these dashboards, these executive level dashboards, it's great for your president. It's great for your chancellor. It's great for anyone who has just, 5 minutes, show me the top level. Where are we at? Where are we standing? It's kind of like showing the vibrancy, the health. It's like monitoring the health of where the recruitment efforts are at. So anything else you'd like to share before we close out today's episode?
Yeah. And just keep in mind that this is driven for individuals. So this is not an institution.
30 people per school.
Yeah. Yeah, this is individuals, and if you're looking towards career mobility, career kind of advancement in your area, these are the things that would be super important for kind of upskilling whatever you're doing right now, whatever your role is in the enrollment office. We're going to be looking for folks who are more their day-to-day, the data-driven component. We're going to be evaluating the applications, but think about this not just as what can I do better for my institution, but also how can I, take what I do right now and take that to another level and kind of upskill my whatever I'm doing.
That's fantastic. Well, thanks everyone for watching. Next week's episode, maybe we'll bring JC on board. This has been another exciting episode of In Your Element with Artis and Eric. And we'll see you later on in the week for our annual sort of like news episode, not annual, weekly. Weekly. Yeah, once a year. We'll just kind of come randomly. No, but it's going to be weekly. And so we're going to discuss kind of the topics at hand for what's going on around the world of higher education. But until then, we'll see you next time.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, everybody.